Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel. Are you ready for the game 9 of the Nongshim Cup?
Alright, in this game, Yang Kaiwen 9 Dan is playing as black, and Iyama 9 Dan is playing as white. The game starts out with Iyama playing the 4-4 joseki. Black also starts with the star point joseki. White plays the Keima to challenge the center, and Yang Kaiwen plays the same, asking Iyama, do you want Italian or Spanish? Iyama is lactose intolerant, therefore he avoids the Italian and picks the Spanish. Here, black Atari, white extends, and black plays the f6. The Keima to challenge white center. White Tanuki, this is setting up a trap. If black just captures the stone in the center, then the counterattack will be too strong. Yang Kaiwen knows that because a 9-dan professional, therefore he plays another Atari trying to expand on the left side. And at this point, instead of capturing the center, black decided to play a rock-solid Kosumi at d6, and this game is still very equal. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the typical Spanish joseki that we all know. Game 9 of the Nongshim Cup. Yang Kaiwen is playing as black, and Iyama is playing as white. The game starts out like this. Black approaches, white plays the Kosumi, and here black takes the corner. So here the reason black does not play the 2-space extension, nothing wrong with it really, but black is afraid of white approaching here. When white approaches, it puts black slightly in an awkward position. If black also enters with the Kosumi, then white will also play the 2-space extension. We can see that both players have exact same shape, except that white's formation is on the same side and they have a better coordination than black's formation, which are separate. So early game planning is a very fun process. Black plays the big Keima defense to prevent that from happening. And at this point, instead of pincering the stone, which is totally playable, white decides to go faster and take the territory. And this works very well with his Sansan Joseki over here, right? White is playing very territorial in this game. White crawls, black invites a flying knife, white refuses that, and black blocks. White Hane, and here black comes back with a 3-space extension. White immediately invades. This not only invades black, but also aiming at the weakness over here, as well as counter-attacking black stones over here. Black plays the Hane. So here black can also directly attack white. This would be a good move as well. Against this move, how does white respond here? If white plays just the attach and Hane, then white can live inside with no problem. But today I want to present an even better solution. That is for white to play this type of move. This is usually a really good move. Against, especially when you're in trouble, you can think about transferring with the peep over here. Now against this peep, usually black does not want to just block and cut white off, because when you do that, then you have to get into this shape, and then white can play the Keima to kill off the stone over here, right? Or at least putting a lot of pressure on the stone over here. We can see white successfully transferred, right, from having to deal with the stone over here to almost capturing black stone over here. There's still some aji in the corner. So the result of this is that this is a slightly better position for white. Another variation is for black to turn on top. Here white is going to play the tiger's mouth. Black simply play the Kosumi to connect the stone back, and here white plays a 1-space extension to very comfortably live inside black's territory. We can see this way of living is a lot more efficient than if we simply attach and Hane. So the peep over here is an excellent move to deal with the problem. Okay, in the actual game, black decides to complete the follow-up on the bottom left. White Hane, black cuts, and here white decides to Atari. Black Atari, white cuts on top, black connects, and white extends. These are all book moves. So white chooses the fighting variation. Black plays the shoulder hit. This is a very nice move that cuts off white and attack both group at the same time, and also it gets black out. So the next move, white plays the Keima, also a very good move. It looks like white has very serious weakness over here, but trying to cut white off will be falling into a trap. For example, if black cuts on this direction, white is going to push and cut. Black extends, white Atari, and we can see because black stone is laddered, then white has no problem living inside. And this would not be a great position for black because this also puts counter pressure against black's 4 stones. That definitely would be black would falling into a trap and falling behind. If black cuts on this direction, that's probably even worse because white now push and cut. Black extends, white blocks, and black has to capture the stone. Here, because the ladder works, we can see that this stone is laddered, which means this group is very strong, and this stone is in serious trouble, right? And what black got over here is not very good. Okay, so the Keima is a very nice move. In the actual game, Yang Kaiwen, of course, understood that, and he played very solid. Just blocking here, right? Aiming at the push and cut later. Why not Atari and capture the stone? And here Yang Kaiwen comes back and cut off the connection. The next move, Iyama plays a 3-space extension. This looks a little bit, it looks like an overplay, but actually I think this is an amazing move. The idea is not really trying to fight black here, rather it's to sacrifice the 2 stones. Black obviously captures the 2 stones. And here white peeps, black attaches, and at this point, white plays out a kick over here. So this is a slightly inaccurate move. White should have just played on the outside over here, right? The right side. You can just attach on top or just play a big move. This move makes white a little bit heavier, right? Because you wanted to sacrifice the 2 stones. Why do you want to spend more moves to just make it heavy, right? It's black stone all over the place. So white plays the kick. Obviously, this is a sente against black's group over here. Black has a lot of weaknesses. But the next move, Yang Kaiwen plays the connect. And this actually makes white move over here an excellent move, right? Because this is a good exchange for white. So at this point, because of this very bad mistake, actually Yang Kaiwen is falling behind. So Yang Kaiwen should have played the clamp on the second line. This move has a lot of points because if you don't play, eventually white is going to clamp here and connect underneath. And this is a lot of points. So this move exchanging with black second line clamp is a bad exchange for white. Because white is not only making himself heavier, but when black clamps, black gained a lot of territory. But when Yang Kaiwen played connect in the actual game, the clamp here still exists. And this is just a better exchange for white. Because white made himself heavier, but he still wants to sacrifice. But the fact we have an outside stone exchanging with an inside stone means that white will later on have a lot more aji in the center. So immediately white plays the Keima, looking at the push and cut. Black prevents that with a very efficient move. White hane, black extends, and here white plays the Keima, trying to sacrifice the stones over here in a very efficient way. Black pushes, white extends, and black keeps pushing. Here white plays the hane. The next move, Yang Kaiwen decided to play the triangle to try to secure the kill on these 3 stones. But of course, as we can see, this move has a very bad shape, and it's actually not the best move. A better move for black to play here is to simply cut in the center, and I'm pretty sure a lot of my viewers would have thought about this move as well, because it's just more efficient, right? Because our stone here doesn't have connection issues, so why not cut here and put more pressure on white? Maybe Yang Kaiwen was not in a very good state in this game. We can see first of all there was a pretty obvious mistake by connecting here, and then there's another not so great shape move. White connects, black now pushes through to basically kill the 3 stones here. And at this point, Iyama plays very efficient, right? Instead of playing a move in the center, which is a very good move. For example, if white plays here, it would be a little bit slow, but still a very solid move. Iyama plays very fast. Black hane, black atari, white connects. And here black extends on the second line. This is all book move. So white cuts, black turns, white jumps, and black goes back and kill the corner. White now plays a 4-space high extension coordinating with his entire Moyo. At this point, I would say Iyama definitely has the momentum of this game because of the previous mistakes that Yang Kaiwen has played. Yang Kaiwen decides to counterattack the center by cutting over here, and Iyama atari from the right side. Black extends, white keeps pushing. So from objective point of view, this atari and sacrificing the stones on the left side would be considered a mistake. But here is the interesting part. Like, I personally think that this is a great idea by white, because at this point, after a couple pushes, we can see white sacrificed a lot of points on the left side for sure, but white now has a very big Moyo that Iyama is very comfortable with, right? We all know Iyama is a very good fighter, so he loves this type of Moyo fights. But of course, in terms of, just absolute accurate moves, White should probably have jumped out like this. All right, when White jumps out, we can see White can squeeze over here and aim at the Atari. For example, if this plays out, right, eventually White can squeeze here, forcing Black to connect, and there's a cut. So there's a lot of aji in here. In the actual game, Iyama chose a very simple variation that is just to focus on the right side, which I personally really liked. Even if AI says now the game is back to equal, I think from a human perspective, it's still a better game for White. Iyama gets the Sente and play the Keima. This move is very important to prevent Black's invasion. But Black decided to invade anyway, right? This is a very aggressive invasion. It's very deep. Another possibility is for Black to invade over here, right? This move does not directly address the problem, but it's attacking White's 4 stones over here. So White doesn't have the time to really play moves over here. So that's also a great idea. Yang Kaiwen plays very aggressive. And next move I really liked, Iyama plays the push over here, right? So we all know that if you're invading, the principle of invasion is that you want to counterattack. And this is exactly what Black is aiming to do. First of all, there's some connection possibilities underneath, but more importantly, because White has a cutting point, this stone is actually very strong. But when Iyama simply plays a very solid move, it gets rid of all the counterattack possibilities by Black, and now White can very comfortably attack the stone over here. Black Kosumi, White blocks, and here Black plays a second line slide. My first intuition would be playing the Keima here, right? And then if White push on top, then Black can bump like this and just try to live underneath. Black should be able to live on the bottom, but White is definitely going to solidify the side on the right side. In the actual game, Black plays a little bit more flexible, right? It's looking at the attach on the 4th line and also the jump on the 2nd line. White decides to exchange a move. This is an absolute Sente because there's a wedge. So Black has to connect, and White now peeps at the elephant eye, trying to break the shape. And the fight is inevitable. Black pushes, White extends, Black keeps pushing, White extends. This is all forced. The next move, Black clamps at the start point. White honey, and here Black decides to push down on the 3rd line. I would say this is a very big mistake by Yang Kaiwen. And the reason this is a mistake is, I think it's purely just a reading mistake. A better move for Black to play now is to use this rhythm and just push out and take care of the group over here. If White captures the stone, then Black will turn first and then clamp. Black needs to follow very tightly the principle of invasion. Try to stick to his opponent as much as he can. White honey, Black honey, White turns, and here Black can bump into White. White has to block that, and Black Atari and honey. White extends, Black can push once. This is still looking at the cutting point, so White fixes that, and Black now jumps towards the center. You can see through this very accurate maneuver, Black can manage to live inside, but of course, White can solidify both sides, right? So White has a lot of territory on the side as well. But this still would be more or less an equal position. The reason Yang Kaiwen decided to push like this and look for a fight, and the reason that is a mistake is because Black is very outnumbered right now, because White just have so many supporting stones all around. So starting a fight over here is not a great idea. Black cuts, White connects, and here Black extends. This is the shape move. White has to be very careful here. If White just block like this, then first of all, Black already has the possibility to just live like this, right? So this would make Black alive. Not to say you have to think about what happens when Black jumps out. So Iyama here plays a Tsuji. That is to play the empty triangle. That's the absolute shape move for this Liberty fight. If Black jumps towards the corner, then White is going to push and throw in. Black takes, White clamps. If Black goes for the Liberty fight, then this is going to be White kills Black. We can see that White has 2 Liberties and Black only has 1. If Black tries to push over here and looking at the weaknesses, White can simply just capture the 3 stones first. If Black extends out, it doesn't mean Black is out of trouble. white can still attack this group over here. For example, white can play the Kosumi here, right? Prevent the problem that black has over here, and it looks very difficult for black to survive here. So in the actual game, Yang Kaiwen decides to go for the Liberty fight by turning into the corner. White Hane, black Hanes, and white extends. Here black plays a Tsuji attached on the first line. That is the best way to squeeze white's Liberty. White captures, black Atari, white takes, and black now Atari. Of course, white cannot connect, because if you connect, black connects, and the next move black is going to play at the 1-1 and capture the corner. So white has to block on the outside, and this becomes a ko. Black takes the ko, and Iyama decides to run with the stone here. This obviously is a very big ko threat. And at this point, Yang Kaiwen doesn't have a choice but to capture the corner. If black keeps going, right, by answering the ko, then white can take back. And here, because if you look at the board, there's really no ko threat for black. Right? This corner, you can't find any ko threat. These guys are dead, so nothing you can find. This corner is rock solid. And then the rest is here. Like, I don't see a single ko threat, right? And that's the problem. The only way for black to keep going is to play something like this. But then white Atari. This exchange is already really bad for black, right? Even if black wins the ko, the fact that white gets a stone here is very valuable. Okay, so now black takes back. Well, white is not finished here. White still has ko threat, right? So eventually you still have to capture the corner. So why not just capture it like right now? All right, so Yang Kaiwen decided to capture the corner, get rid of this problem. But of course, there's another problem on the top right, because white can Atari, black connects. For the same reason, black cannot just play this ko, right? Black doesn't have any ko threats, as we have talked about. So black connects, white now captures corner. And now we can see that the transfer of territory is absolutely huge. Black used to have a very solid, decent corner, but now it's all white's territory over here. So the loss is absolutely huge. And at this point, Yama is definitely quite ahead in this game. And Yang Kaiwen needs to find some opportunity to make this game as chaotic as possible to try to come back. Black attaches, that's a shape move. The next move, I absolutely loved it. I think a lot of my viewers might think about connecting here, right, just to be safe, but this is not how a 9-dan professional plays go, right? The next move, Yama plays the Kosumi, goes for the counterattack, and that's the correct move to play, right? Even if black can try to, get some stuff going on here, right, by playing Hane and stuff, the fact we're able to cut off black means that later on these 4 guys have to pay, right, for whatever you do here. So that's the correct idea, right? We want to play very efficient with putting a lot of pressure on our opponent instead of just passively defending over here. Yama plays a Kosumi. And in the actual game, black decides to temporarily not do anything here because he does care about the 4 stones on top. So black now plays the cap on top. White adds another move to secure the area over here. Right? If white doesn't do anything and just play the two space low extension here, well, by the way, this move, it's so pressing as well, right? It's absolutely huge move that secures the 2 stones. But if white plays like this, then black is going to wedge, and that's going to be a problem. White Atari, black connects. White can ladder the stone, but black can also drag out the group and try to live on the side. And then white is going to lose quite a bit of territory, right, because of this sequence. So in the actual game, Yama plays very solid by completely killing the Aji on the bottom left, on the top right corner. Black now plays absolutely the most aggressive and most chaotic move, right, by attacking white's 2 stones over here. Let's see how Yama defends this. White plays the kick, black extends, and now white plays the Hane. Here, black cannot just answer. If you answer, white connects. Okay, my corner is rock solid, and obviously you can make this into your territory. It's just too weak right now. So Yang Kaiwen's next move is absolutely, mandatory. He has to play like that to cause maximum problem. White connects, black Atari, white connects, and black captures the stone on the second line. And here Yama plays a 2-space extension, securing his group on the left side. And at this point, I thought this would be very hopeless for Yang Kaiwen because He just doesn't have enough territory to compete, and white's top left, which is the only weak group, now seems to be fine. But the next move I really liked. It's probably, I would say, the best move in this game. Even if black is behind at this point, black's attach is a very brilliant move that shows a very deep understanding of shape in the game of Go. So at the first glance, maybe when you were watching this game live, you'd be wondering, we all saw in the actual game white decide to hane on the outside, and this actually caused a lot of chaos over here. So you might be wondering, what if white hane here, right? If black extends, then we're cool here, right? Like we have no shape problem and our corner is fine. And this is exact thing I was thinking. But then I realized that black is actually not going to let white off the hook. Black will drag white into chaos by cutting off over here. And that's very aggressive. If white just turns, then we can Atari, right? If you block, then I can just... so I have several ways. Maybe I can even Atari here to cause more problems. So white is not out of trouble, even if white wants to avoid it. That's why in the actual game, Iyama saw that, and instead of avoiding things that we're afraid of, why not just face the challenge? He placed the hane on the outside. Black extends. White plays the tiger's mouth to fix the cutting point. Black pushes out. That's the only way to get out. And white also used that rhythm to push through. And at this point, black peeps. White Atari, that's a sente, and then white now comes back and connect. So Yang Kaiwen successfully cut white into pieces. But the problem is his group is also having a weird shape. So he has to deal with this group first. Black plays the Kosumi. White Atari in the corner. Black captures. And now white extends. This move partially made white alive, because later on black can still make the tiger's mouth and try to fight a ko, try to kill white. This move not only gives white a lot more living space, but also it breaks black shape. Right? If black gets the tiger's mouth, then black will have a nice shape. So white extension is a good move. Black now clamps, white turns on top, and here black jumps back towards the main group. So at this point, we can see that even if Iyama is leading, this is still a quite difficult game to win, because the counterattack from Yang Kaiwen is very fierce, right? Yang Kaiwen is looking at the tiger's mouth, trying to kill the corner, and this group is still not alive. So Iyama has to play very precise here. White attaches on top, black extends, and white now squeeze. Here black has to connect. All these are white's rights because just because black shape is really, really weak. And the next move, Iyama plays the wedge, a very well played move. Black Atari, white connects, and this wedge can connect basically weakens black shape even further. Black now turns, preventing white from pushing on top, and white plays the Keima, trying to connect the group back home. So Iyama's idea is that if he can connect this group safely back home, then he only has to worry about Yang's final, counterattack with this ko over here. So here, black cannot rush to cut white off, right? If you try something in the center, first of all, I'm not sure what exactly you're going to try. The thing is, well, white will obviously answer you here, but eventually white has this counterattack, right? Maybe your stones will be dead at the end of the day. So that's why Yang Kaiwen, instead of attacking, which doesn't work, plays very solid and just fix the weaknesses. White now extends, and black Atari here, right? This is a must-play move, right? If you play somewhere here, then white can extend, right? And then we can see some ice space for white. Maybe this is not even a thing anymore after that. So the Atari has to be played. White now plays the Kosumi, trying to get back home. This is also aiming at black's cutting point. Black plays the Kosumi, right, trying to fix the cutting point in the most efficient way, because black extension here is a sente. And at this point, white comes back and basically gets rid of all the aji here. And this is a very solid move. I would not have seen this move. I would probably play over here, right, trying to fix my corner or trying to, connect back home safe. But the reason Iyama plays an extra move here is because there's still a lot of aji remaining, right? If you just play safe, then black might have this type of move to try to live inside your territory. And this is not easy to deal with. Iyama captures the stone, a rock solid move, because he knows that in the center he doesn't have any problem. Black attaches, white plays the tiger's mouth. Black is basically preparing for some ko threats. And at this point, black plays the extension. That's a sente. White has to extend back to otherwise black hane here, white will be disconnected. So white has to get back home. And at this point, Yang Kaiwen finally get a chance to start his final attack, right? Trying to kill the entire corner. White blocks, black Atari, white takes. And here black uses the co-threat that he has prepared and then take back. White squeezes, that's an absolute sente, or else white's going to connect here. Black connects, and white takes back. Here black plays the tiger's mouth, white has to connect, take back, and white squeezes. That's also a sente. Black has to connect, white takes back, and here black plays the wedge. White prevents the cutting, and black takes back. At this point, when white connects over here, Yang Kaiwen realizes that he can't answer anymore, right? If he answers, there's really no more co-threats left on the board. So at this point, he goes for all in. He captures the stone at 1-2 and try to kill white's corner. White plays the hane. Black obviously has to block that, and here white goes for the cut. Black has to save the group first, and at this point, white throws in, black takes, and white extends towards the center. We can see that there's a very aggressive liberty fight in the center. Black attaches, white hane, and black now connects. And here, white extends out. At this point, black has to cut off the two groups. Otherwise, when white connects, then you can forget about the liberty fight, right? So black has to cut off the two groups to go for the liberty fight. And at this point, white plays the shape move, preventing black from making an eye. We can see it looks like a seki, but white does have a lot of outside liberties. So at this point, Yang Kaiwen decides to Atari. And when white cuts, Yang Kaiwen decided to resign. Now let's look at why Yang Kaiwen resigned, right? Let's see what's happening with this liberty fight. First of all, there's a liberty fight between this group and the corner. If black goes for the kill, then white will squeeze, black squeezes, white squeezes, and we can see that white has 3 liberties and black has 2. So we can see black can forget about the liberty fight against the corner on top. What about the group in the center? If black can manage to get a seki, then black can kill the corner first and then kill the center. But of course, first of all, if black connects here to prevent the cutting point, white can squeeze from the outside. Let's just play out the liberties, right? So we can see at this point, there's really no seki because white has an extra liberty. Now, what about what black played in the actual game, right? Yang Kaiwen squeeze over here, trying to prevent, trying to make a seki, but white now can just cut here. When white cuts, it actually extends white's liberty, and this is impossible for black to win. Black has to squeeze the liberty from the outside. And here, white doesn't even have to run, right? White can just capture. When you throw in, then even if I can run, white should probably run, but let's just say white doesn't. White just squeeze the liberty from behind. We can see that black just doesn't have enough liberties to win. You have the capture here. I can squeeze, and then I can. Well, at this point, it's a gote for black, right? So this is definitely white kills black in here. That's why at this point, when white cuts, it is too obvious for both players, and black decided to resign, right? We can see that this is definitely a huge victory from Iyama. Throughout this game, Iyama has played very well, right? This is one of his dream game, I would say. He performed almost perfectly, except like the Atari over here, right? Which according to AI was a mistake, but from a human perspective, it was just fine. But if you look at Yang Kaiwen, he has not been performing very well in this game, especially with the connection over here and the empty triangle. And later on, he decides to go for a fight when he's outnumbered, which leads to a disaster on the top right corner. And from that point on, Iyama didn't really give Yang Kaiwen any chances, especially facing the very ferocious attack from Yang Kaiwen. Iyama has showed that he's a great fighter and he's not afraid of fighting. And he fought super well, and eventually leads to Yang Kaiwen losing the group in the center and resigning. Overall, this is a very high quality game from Iyama. I'm very impressed. This year's Nongshim Cup is very exciting because at this point, both China, Korea, and Japan has 2 players left. From the Chinese side, there's Ding Hao 9P and Wang Xinghao 9P, both are world champions. Korea has Park Jung-hwan and Shin Jin-seo, obviously number 2 and number 1 from Korea. And finally, we have Iyama and Ichiriki from Japan. Funnily, they just played the Oza title match recently. So This year's Nongshim Cup is definitely like a dream Nongshim Cup because these 6 players, they do represent the highest level, of professional Go of today. So they're gonna play. So this is the stage 2, right? The game 9 was the last game of stage 2. The stage 3 will start, I think, beginning of next year or something. So when that comes out, I will keep commenting on it. But don't be sad. I mean, there's still a lot of cool tournaments, a lot of interesting games that I'm gonna talk about as as Christmas approaches. There will definitely be more content coming out for the YouTube viewers and also my members. So if you like today's video, make sure you give a like and subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss a future commentary like this. I hope to see you all in my next video.